The Varix expedition had been traveling for months, crossing vast stretches of space, eager to explore a planet that had long been a mystery. Their mission was simple: to be the first aliens to set foot on Earth. To them, Earth was just another planet, primitive, mostly uninhabited, and according to their research, home to nothing more than a variety of wild animals and natural beauty. As their ship descended into Earth's atmosphere, the team gazed out of their windows at the vast, blue and green orb below. Captain Xian, the leader of the team, sat in the cockpit, fingers hovering over the controls. "This is it," he murmured, eyes sparkling with excitement. "The first planet to be explored by us. We're making history today." The Varix were a race of explorers, curious and bold. They had visited many worlds before, but none were quite like Earth. The humans who once inhabited the planet were long gone, wiped out by a mysterious event that had taken place thousands of years ago. All that remained were animals and a rich, untouched ecosystem. As the ship touched down in a remote forest, the team was eager to step out and begin their exploration. They suited up, checked their equipment, and took their first steps onto the soft green grass. The air smelled fresh, different from any planet they had encountered before, with a crispness that reminded them of home. "Everyone, remember to document everything," Captain Xian instructed his crew, his voice calm but filled with anticipation. "We're not just explorers, we're scientists. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." The crew, including Dr. Vera, the team's biologist, and Tarek, the engineer, began setting up their equipment. The sound of their boots crunching in the grass was the only noise breaking the quiet of the forest. They began to record the flora and fauna around them, gigantic trees stretching high into the sky, colorful flowers that swayed in the breeze, and strange creatures that scurried through the underbrush. None of them were intelligent, none of them had technology. But the Varix were fascinated by the sheer diversity and beauty of Earth's natural world. Tarek, who had a deep love for technology, pointed to a massive tree. "Look at this one. It's enormous. I think it's the largest species of its kind. I'll get a closer look," he said, and without waiting for approval, he rushed off to scan the tree with his handheld device. Dr. Vera crouched next to a group of flowers, marveling at their vibrant colors. "These plants have properties that I've never seen before. The way they communicate with the insects. Fascinating." The team was in awe. They moved further into the forest, exploring new areas, documenting new species, and basking in the peace that Earth seemed to offer. It felt like paradise. Too perfect, too untouched. But something felt odd. As Captain Xian walked alongside his crew, the quiet weighed on him. It was a stillness he had never felt before on any of the other planets they had explored. There were no sounds of machinery, no hum of civilization, not even the distant whir of any kind of technology. It was as if the planet had been abandoned, forgotten by time itself. Xian shook the thought from his mind. They had come to Earth to discover its mysteries, not to dwell on questions that had no answers. "Let's focus on what we can learn," he said, trying to push the unease away. There will be plenty of time for questions later, but his words did little to reassure him. As he looked around, the forest seemed endless, stretching far into the distance. There was no sign of human civilization, not even ruins. The only thing that marked this planet as different from the others was the overwhelming sense of emptiness. No roads, no cities, not even ancient structures. The more Xian looked, the more he felt the weight of that emptiness. Was this what Earth had become after the humans had vanished? An untouched world lost to the ages? As if reading his mind, Dr. Vera approached him. "Captain, have you noticed anything strange about this place?" He glanced at her, his brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" "There's a silence here," she said, her voice low. "Too quiet. It doesn't feel natural." Xian nodded, sensing that she was right. It wasn't just the absence of humans. It was the absence of life in a different sense. No signs of past activity, no abandoned structures, not even old tools. It was as if Earth had never been inhabited by anyone at all, despite what their records suggested. "I've been thinking the same thing," Jian replied. "But let's not jump to conclusions. We're here to learn, and right now, the best thing we can do is keep exploring." The team continued onward, moving deeper into the forest. With each step, the silence grew more intense and the feeling of isolation became harder to ignore. The sound of their footsteps was the only sound they could hear, aside from the occasional rustling of leaves. It was unnerving, but they pushed on, determined to discover what Earth had to offer. As the day wore on, the sun began to dip behind the horizon. The team set up camp in a clearing, their equipment still running and documenting everything around them. They had gathered enough data to fill years of research, but still, there was a sense that something was missing. Something was out of place. Sitting around the fire, the team laughed and shared stories from their past explorations. Despite the strange feelings that lingered, they were excited. They had made it to Earth, a world no one had ever thought to visit. It was a monumental achievement. But even as the fire crackled and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Xian couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were being watched. He couldn't explain why, but the thought was there. The planet felt too quiet, too perfect. As the wind picked up and the trees swayed, Jian couldn't help but wonder, were they truly the first to set foot on Earth? And if they were, why did it feel so empty? As the team settled in for the night, the answer to that question would soon reveal itself in a way they couldn't have anticipated. The team awoke to the crisp morning air, refreshed from their night's rest in the quiet forest. The silence of Earth was still present, though now it felt even more profound. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, the forest was bathed in soft golden light. The peacefulness of the place was almost mesmerizing. It was like nothing they had ever experienced before. They packed up their camp, ready to continue their exploration. Captain Shan gathered his team around for their morning briefing. "We've been here less than a day, but we've already made some incredible discoveries. Let's keep moving forward. Today we'll go deeper into the forest and see what else we can find. Stay sharp and keep documenting everything." With their equipment in hand, they set off once again into the wilderness, trekking through the dense undergrowth. The forest was unlike anything they had encountered on other planets. The trees were enormous, towering over them like ancient sentinels. The plants were lush and vibrant, their colors so vivid they almost seemed unreal. Dr. Vera eagerly examined the local flora, fascinated by how different it was from anything she had studied before. "This plant, look at the size of its leaves. It has properties unlike anything in our records," Dr. Vera said, her voice tinged with excitement. She took out her scanning device to analyze the plant. "I've never seen anything like it. This could be a breakthrough." Tarek, the engineer, was just as eager to investigate the technology that powered their journey. He had spent the previous night analyzing the ship's systems, ensuring everything was in working order. But today he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. He was used to seeing advanced civilizations even on planets that seemed untouched. Yet here there was nothing. No signs of past technology, no ruins, not even any trace of human-made structures. "It's strange, Captain," Tarek remarked, as they walked through the thick forest. "I've scanned the entire area within a 2-kilometer radius, and there's no sign of any technology at all. It's as if this place has been untouched." "I know what you mean," Jian replied, his eyes scanning the horizon. "But we've come to a planet that was supposed to be abandoned. Let's keep our minds open. We may just be missing something." The team moved on, each of them absorbed in their own tasks, but the sense of mystery grew with every step they took. As the forest thickened, the ground beneath their feet became softer, almost sponge-like. There was a slight change in the air, too, a shift in the atmosphere that they couldn't quite put their fingers on. Suddenly, Dr. Vera let out an excited gasp. "Captain, come look at this," she called, waving her hand frantically. Shen quickly jogged over to her, followed by Tarek and the others. They found Dr. Vera standing next to an enormous, gnarled tree. Its trunk was twisted, and the surface was covered in strange symbols. As the team gathered around, they noticed something even more unusual. A set of footprints leading from the tree and disappearing into the distance. The prints were large and deep, as though something or someone very heavy had passed through the area recently. These aren't animal tracks, Tarek said, crouching down to examine them closely. Whatever made these, they're far too large for any known animal species on Earth. Captain Jian frowned. So, we're not the first visitors here after all. As they examined the area further, they found more evidence of unusual activity. The trees around them were covered in similar markings, carvings like someone had used advanced tools to etch symbols into the bark. The markings didn't resemble anything they had ever seen before. They weren't from Earth. That much was clear. We need to follow these tracks, Yan said, determination in his voice. There's no way that we're the first ones here. Someone or something has been here before us. The team set off along the trail, their sense of curiosity now joined by a growing unease. The deeper they ventured into the forest, the more they noticed. Every tree, every stone seemed to have some mark, some symbol or scratch that suggested a history beyond Earth's natural beauty. Yet there was no sign of any obvious alien presence. No ships, no advanced equipment, just the trail of footprints and these strange markings. As the hours passed, the team grew weary, but the trail showed no sign of stopping. The footprints led them to a small clearing where the trees parted to reveal something that took them completely by surprise. A series of stone structures, partially covered in moss and overgrown with vegetation. This doesn't look natural, Dr. Vera whispered, her voice barely audible. She knelt to examine the ruins. The stones were perfectly cut, aligned in a way that suggested human craftsmanship, or something else entirely. But what was most startling was the sheer size and scale of the structures. These ruins were not small. They were monumental, suggesting a long-lost civilization. Xian stepped forward, his heart pounding. These weren't built by animals. Someone, or something, made these. The team spread out, cautiously exploring the ruins. As they investigated, they found evidence of something even more extraordinary. Small devices hidden beneath the rubble seemed to be powered down but intact. They looked similar to their own equipment but far older. And there were more carvings, etched into the stone walls, depicting scenes that none of them could fully comprehend. It looked like some kind of history, a story from long ago, but it was written in a language they couldn't read. Captain Shan's mind raced. What happened here? Who lived here? Why did they leave? As the team continued to search, a sense of dread began to settle over them. It was clear that they were no longer just explorers, they were intruders. They had stumbled upon something far more ancient and mysterious than they had ever imagined. Then, as they were about to leave the ruins, something strange happened. Their recording devices, which had been functioning perfectly until now, began to glitch. The screens flickered and the images became distorted. Tarek's equipment powered off completely. This isn't right, Tarek muttered, tapping the side of his scanner. All systems are malfunctioning. Dr. Vera looked up, her face pale. Captain, there's something wrong with this place, I can feel it. Xian stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing with questions. Why were their devices failing? What was the connection between the footprints, the ruins, and the strange carvings? And why did it feel like they were being watched? In that moment, the realization hit him. They were not alone on Earth. They never had been. The team moved deeper into the forest, their minds racing with the strange discoveries they had made. The malfunctioning equipment, the mysterious footprints, the ancient symbols carved into the trees. It all felt like they had stumbled upon a secret that Earth had kept hidden for centuries. Captain Xian's thoughts were clouded with questions. Who or what had left these markings? Why were their scanners failing? And most importantly, why did it feel like they were being watched? Xian couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was out there, observing them from the shadows. He glanced over at his crew. They were all focused on their work, but there was an unease in their movements, a hesitation that hadn't been there the day before. Dr. Vera walked beside him, her attention focused on the ground as she studied the strange markings and footprints. "Captain, I don't think we're dealing with an animal here," she said, her voice low but firm. "These marks, they're too deliberate. Whatever made them was intelligent, and it knew what it was doing." Xian nodded, his gaze scanning the trees around them. "I agree, but I don't understand. There are no signs of civilization, no structures, nothing that would suggest anyone's been here for a long time." Tarek, who had been quietly analyzing his scanner, looked up, his face pale. "Something's wrong with the signal, Captain. I've never seen anything like this before. It's like something is blocking our equipment. Whatever's out here, it doesn't want us to find it." The feeling of being watched intensified with every step they took. The forest was alive with sounds, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of distant creatures. But it was all too quiet, too perfect. No one spoke as they trudged forward, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on their shoulders. They walked for hours, the dense forest becoming even more difficult to navigate. The trees grew thicker, their branches twisting and tangling in unnatural ways, blocking out the sunlight. Xian felt a growing sense of dread as they ventured further into the unknown. Every step seemed to draw them closer to something, but he couldn't tell what. The sense of isolation was overwhelming, and the silence seemed to stretch on forever. Eventually, they came across another clearing, though this one felt different from the others. The air was heavier, as if something invisible was hanging in the atmosphere. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was the absence of any sign of life. No animals, no insects, no birds. It was as if the entire forest had fallen silent, just for them. "This place, it doesn't feel right," Tarek said, his voice strained. He was the first to break the silence, and his words seemed to echo in the stillness around them. "It's like we're being drawn into something." Xian took a deep breath and surveyed the clearing. There was nothing here but more trees and undergrowth. But his instincts told him something was hidden, something waiting just beneath the surface. "Stay alert," he ordered. "We'll move in pairs from here on out. Dr. Vera, Tarek, stay close to each other. Let's keep moving." The team split into pairs, cautiously making their way through the clearing. Xian stayed at the front with Dr. Vera, his mind racing with possibilities. Whatever they were dealing with, it wasn't just an ancient civilization. It was something more, something far more dangerous. As they moved forward, Dr. Vera pointed out a series of strange markings carved into the ground. Unlike the ones they had seen before, these were deeper, more intricate, and seemed to form a pattern, an unmistakable symbol that repeated itself at regular intervals. It was as though someone had intentionally arranged the symbols in a way that created a path leading somewhere. "Captain, look at this," Dr. Vera said, kneeling down to examine the markings. "This doesn't seem random. These patterns, they're leading us somewhere." Xian crouched next to her, studying the symbols. They were like nothing he had ever seen before. The lines and shapes were fluid, almost alive, as if they were changing before his eyes. "We're not just walking through the forest anymore, we're being led." Tarek and the other crew members gathered around, each of them now fully aware that they had crossed into a place that was no longer just Earth. This was something else entirely, something ancient, something forgotten. As they continued to follow, the path marked by the strange symbols, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. It was no longer a vague sense of unease, it was a cold, chilling certainty. They were not alone. The path led them to a cluster of large rocks, partially hidden by vines and thick vegetation. At first glance, it appeared to be just another natural formation. But as they approached, the team realized that the rocks were not naturally occurring at all. They had been shaped, carved, and aligned in a perfect circle, forming a kind of altar or shrine. "Is this a structure?" Dr. Vera asked, her voice barely a whisper. Xian nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "It looks like one, but who built it? And why here?" As they examined the rocks, they discovered more carvings, symbols similar to those they had seen earlier, but now they seemed to take on a more menacing tone. The deeper they explored, the more the symbols seemed to come to life, twisting and shifting in ways that made Xian's head spin. Then, without warning, something moved. Xian's hand instinctively went to the weapon at his side, but before he could react, a figure stepped out from behind one of the rocks. It was humanoid in shape, but its features were impossible to fully comprehend. The figure was tall and thin, with pale skin that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Its eyes, dark and cold, seemed to pierce through the team, sending a wave of fear rippling through them. The figure said nothing, simply standing there watching them. It didn't move, didn't speak, but the message was clear. It had been waiting for them. Xian's heart raced. He had no idea what this being was or what it wanted. But one thing was certain. Earth was not the empty, untouched world they had assumed. It was home to something far older and far more dangerous than they could ever have imagined. The figure stood in the clearing, its dark eyes watching the team intently. Its presence sent a shiver down Captain Xian's spine. It didn't speak, didn't make a sound, but the feeling of being watched, of being judged, was overwhelming. The air around them seemed to grow colder and the silence was deafening. For a long moment, no one moved. Xian's mind raced. Was this some kind of guardian, a protector of this hidden place, or was it something more? Something dangerous? He couldn't tell. The figure's tall, slender form shimmered slightly in the fading light, as if it was part of the very air around them, yet solid and real in every way. Dr. Vera, who had been standing beside Xian, finally broke the silence. What is it? She whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't know, Xian replied, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. But I have a feeling it's not here to help us. Without warning, the figure raised a hand. It was a slow, deliberate movement, as if it were offering some kind of gesture, but it didn't speak. No words came from its mouth. There was only the intense gaze that held them in place. Xian took a step forward, his heart pounding. He didn't know what the figure wanted, but they needed answers. Who are you? He called out, his voice firm but cautious. What do you want? For a moment, the figure didn't respond. Then, as if considering his words, it stepped forward. The ground seemed to shift beneath its feet, the earth bending in a way that Xian couldn't quite understand. It was as if the very planet itself was alive and responding to its presence. The team watched in silence, unsure of what to do. It was like a dream, or a nightmare. The reality of the situation was beginning to sink in. They were not just explorers. On an abandoned planet, they had uncovered something far deeper, something far more mysterious than they could have ever imagined. Finally, the figure spoke. Its voice was soft, almost melodic, but there was a power to it. You should not have. Come here. The words sent a wave of confusion and unease through the team. Xian's throat tightened, but he forced himself to respond. Why? What is this place? What happened to Earth? The figure tilted its head slightly, its eyes narrowing as if considering his question. This was once a place of life, a place of creation. But it was lost. The ones who came before you. They destroyed what they could not understand. And now you too have disturbed what should have remained hidden. Xian's heart raced. The being's words were cryptic, but there was no mistaking the sense of regret in its voice. What are you? He asked, stepping closer. Why are you here? The figure's gaze shifted toward the ruins and the strange symbols etched into the stone. I am the last of my kind. The others left long ago, seeking new worlds, new places to begin again. But I stayed. I stayed to guard this planet, to protect what remains. Dr. Vera stepped forward, her curiosity outweighing her fear. Guard? This planet from what? What happened to the humans? The figure looked at her with a kind of sadness in its eyes. The humans. They were never meant to thrive here. They were brought to this world by those who thought they could control its power. They were not ready. They failed. And in their failure, they destroyed everything. The team exchanged nervous glances. This was far more than they had anticipated. Earth was not just an abandoned world. It was a place of great loss, a world shaped by forces beyond their comprehension. And now, this being, this guardian, was all that remained to watch over it. Captain Xian took another step forward, his voice steady. "What do you want from us? Why have you shown yourself now?" The figure didn't immediately respond. It raised its hand again, and the air around them seemed to hum with energy. Slowly it spoke once more. "I did not show myself. You found me. And now you must decide what you will do with what you have uncovered." Xian's mind raced. What had they uncovered? The ruins, the markings, the strange footprints, all of it pointed to something ancient and powerful. They had stumbled upon a hidden history, a history that had been deliberately erased. "Do you want us to leave?" Xian asked. "We can leave, if that's what you want." The figure's gaze softened. "You cannot leave. The truth of this place is now within you, and it cannot be undone." Xian felt a chill run down his spine. The figure's words carried a weight of finality, as if they had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Whatever had happened on Earth, whatever had been hidden here, they were now part of it. And there was no going back. "We're not leaving," Xian said, his voice resolute. "We need to understand what happened here. We need to know the truth." The figure seemed to consider his words, and for a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it lowered its hand, and the atmosphere seemed to calm. The tension that had filled the air began to ease, but the sense of unease remained. "If you seek the truth, you will find it," the figure said softly. "But beware. There are those who do not want the truth to be known, and they will stop at nothing to keep it hidden." Captain Xian felt a heavy weight settle over him. This was no longer just an exploration. It was a journey into a dangerous past, one that could have consequences far beyond their understanding. "We'll be careful," Xian promised. "We won't stop until we know what happened here." The figure nodded, its eyes locking with his one last time. "Then you will. Be ready," it said. "But be warned, some truths are not meant to be uncovered, and some stories are better left untold." With those final words, the figure stepped back, its form melting into the shadows of the trees. Xian and the others stood there in stunned silence, the weight of the encounter sinking in. The mysterious being had said its piece, and now the team was left to face the consequences. They had come to Earth to explore, to discover new worlds. But now they had uncovered something far more dangerous. A lost history, a powerful truth, and an ancient guardian who had warned them not to go any further, and yet they knew that they had no choice. They would have to follow the path they had started down, no matter the risks. This part deepens the mystery surrounding Earth and the guardian figure, setting the stage for a darker, more dangerous revelation. The team is now tied to Earth's hidden history, and the truth may not be as simple as they first thought. "Let me know if you need any changes." The team stood in stunned silence, the figure's warning hanging heavily in the air. They had come to Earth with the simple goal of exploration, to discover a new world, and now they were faced with something much bigger. A hidden history, an ancient guardian, and the chilling knowledge that they were part of a mystery far more complex than they had imagined. Captain Xian was the first to break the silence. "We can't just walk away from this," he said, his voice steady but filled with determination. "We need to understand what happened here. We need to know what Earth's true history is." Dr. Vera, still processing the encounter, nodded. "I agree. The Guardian, it said the truth is within us now. But what does that mean? What truth are we talking about?" Tarek, who had been scanning the area with his equipment, looked up. "The technology we found here, it's not of Earth. It's advanced and it's not human. There's something here that was left behind, something we were never meant to find. But now that we have to know what it means." The team gathered their thoughts, knowing they couldn't turn back. The answers were somewhere in the ruins they had discovered, in the symbols that had been etched into the trees, and in the ancient technology hidden beneath the earth. The figure had said they couldn't leave, that they had uncovered a truth that couldn't be undone. But what did that truth mean? Xian motioned for the team to follow him. Let's head back to the ruins. We'll keep searching. We have to find the answers. They made their way back to the clearing where they had encountered the figure, the symbols on the ground still fresh in their minds. As they reached the ruins, Xian's mind raced. He knew that they were now part of something much larger. Whatever had happened to Earth, whatever had caused the downfall of its original inhabitants, they had only scratched the surface. As they explored the ruins again, Tarek's scanner suddenly beeped, a high-pitched noise that cut through the stillness of the forest. "Captain, there's something here. It's a signal. It's coming from underground." Xian's heart skipped a beat. "Underground? Are you sure?" Tarek nodded. "Yes, there's something buried beneath the surface. Something powerful." Without hesitation, Xian gave the order. "Start digging, carefully. We need to see what's down there." The team worked quickly, using their tools to dig through the earth. As they unearthed the layers of soil and rock, they uncovered a large metal door, covered in strange markings and symbols. The door was unlike anything they had seen before. It was made of a smooth, shiny material with no seams or joints. It looked as if it had been crafted by a civilization far more advanced than anything Earth had ever known. "We've found it," Dr. Vera said, her voice full of awe. "This is it, the key to understanding everything." Xian stepped forward and placed his hand on the metal door. He felt a strange warmth beneath his palm, as if the door itself was alive, responding to his touch. Slowly, the door began to open with a low, resonating hum. The sound echoed through the forest, sending a ripple of unease through the team. What was inside? The door slid open to reveal a dark chamber, its walls lined with glowing symbols, the same ones they had seen throughout the ruins. The air inside was cool, and the faint scent of something metallic lingered. As their eyes adjusted to the dim light, they saw what lay inside. It was a vast room, filled with rows of machines, each one connected by a network of cables and pipes. At the center of the room was a massive cylindrical object, almost like a reactor, though its purpose was unclear. The entire room hummed with energy, a strange power that pulsed through the air, filling the space with an eerie glow. Tarek approached the machine carefully. This is incredible. I've never seen anything like this before. It's like some kind of energy source, but it's not anything Earth has ever used." Xian stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room. "What does it all mean? What is this place?" Dr. Vera stepped up to a console that was embedded in the floor. It was covered in the same strange symbols, but now, as she studied it, she realized something. The symbols were not random. They were instructions, a guide. Slowly, she began to input the sequences, and the machine began to respond. A low light blinked on and a voice echoed through the chamber, clear but faint, as if coming from far away. "Humanity failed." The words sent a chill through the team. The voice was cold, devoid of emotion. It continued. "They tried to control the power of this world. They thought they could harness it, but the power was too great. They couldn't understand it. And in their arrogance, they destroyed everything." The room fell silent. The voice's words hung in the air, the weight of the message sinking in. Humanity's downfall wasn't just the result of a natural disaster or a war. It had been caused by their attempt to control something far beyond their understanding, something ancient and powerful. Xian looked at his team, his heart heavy with the realization of what they had uncovered. The humans didn't destroy themselves by accident. They destroyed everything in their attempt to control the planet. Dr. Vera nodded slowly, her face pale. "And now, whatever remains here, whatever power they tried to harness, it's still here, and it's been waiting for someone to find it." As they processed the information, another thought crossed Jian's mind. If the humans had tried to control this power and failed, what had happened to the guardian figure they had encountered? Had it been sent to keep Earth's secrets safe? Or had it been the last remnant of a civilization that had tried and failed to control the ancient power? The silence in the room was deafening. The team stood frozen, surrounded by the hum of the machines and the strange, unspoken truth they had uncovered. There was no going back now. They were tied to Earth's lost history, and the choices they made from this point on would shape the fate of the world they had come to explore. Xian turned to his team. "We've uncovered something that shouldn't have been found. We need to leave, now. But we'll take the knowledge with us. We'll figure out what to do with it. But for now, we leave. We can't afford to stay here any longer." As they exited the chamber, Xian couldn't help but feel a deep sense of unease. Earth was no longer the simple, untouched world they had thought it was. It was a place of ancient power, a place where humanity had tried and failed to control forces beyond their understanding, and now it was up to them to decide what to do with the truth they had uncovered. This part builds to the revelation of what really happened to Earth, showing the team uncovering the dangerous legacy left behind by humans. It introduces the ancient power and its consequences, setting the stage for the team's next steps. Let me know if you need any changes, Mini,